dumpy 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 dum. Dum dum dumpy dum dumpy dumpy dum. Welcome back to the weird and the wonderful with strange bones. That's me. And tonight we are continuing on with some of the strange and mysterious things that we've been chatting about, and we've been talking largely about pyramids as we begin our look into weird archaeology and architecture. And as we get going, just let's start up with a little bit of housekeeping, get ourselves going. Remember that on this channel we insist that we only have one rule. You are more than welcome to be in agreement with what's said, in disagreement with what's said, to air your comments as much as you like. You are more than welcome. We certainly hope you do. You are absolutely encouraged to do so, but you may not be rude. And if you are rude, we shall apply the boot. But that said, we do hope that you enjoy all of the weird and the wonderful things that we discuss on the live. Please note that we do not necessarily promote any of it. It's more of a examination of interest and curiosity more than anything, just for our own amusement and examination. So consider yourselves very, very welcome. Remember that we encourage you very much to like, share, subscribe, do all of these amazing and wonderful things to keep the channel going. And yeah, as we get started, we have two things to consider tonight, because something came up which was touched on in the last live, and of course we did not have the time to have a proper look at it. So before we get into the country of interest for today, we are going to absolutely begin by going back and have a look at that. Because after all, that's the point. As I was checking out what is out there and more, I was explaining what I was researching for the amusement of my significant other. And as we were doing this, she pointed out a couple of interesting videos that she had seen on this topic. And one of them that came up was quite an interesting one, which is currently running around as being something of interest to a lot of people. And we spoke about very briefly possibilities that touch on it. So I thought I would bring it up as the start. As you may well know, if you were involved in the last live, we were looking at the pyramids of Egypt and what conspiracies and things and strange unexplained bits can be said about them. And we know for what research turned up for us, that there is quite a bit of a difficulty, shall we say, in understanding exactly how the ancient peoples of Egypt went about building the pyramids. Because obviously it was a very, very serious undertaking. And we had a look at what the proper archaeologists said and what their theories were. But we also had a good look at the conspiracy theories. And there were two that really mattered. And to be fair, these two might very possibly be conjoined. The first was that it was not the Egyptians alone that built them, but they had assistance from an advanced technology, or people with an advanced technology, or possibly that they had the advanced technology. We're not sure. The other possibility was that it was aliens that actually did the building for nefarious alien reasons. But with that said, one modern conspiracy theory that seems to have come up uh, does seem to combine both of those ideas, and possibly might relate to how it was possible not only in Egypt but in many other places. And this is what we are going to chat about as we begin. We are visited by an extremely annoyed looking kitten tucked into somebody's shirt. It's going to be a 50-50 whether he decides he likes it there or whether he decides he's going to forcibly attack his dad and do terrible things. But knowing the fact that this cat is entirely out of his mind, it could go either way suddenly or both ways because, he's a cat. Cats are allowed to do that. We do have a lot of fun with our kittens. Okay, so this is the ice wall theory. Now, what is the ice wall theory? Well, very, very broadly, the first important thing about the ice wall theory is that Antarctica is not what you think it is. And the reason behind that is very, very simple. The Earth is in fact flat. Yes, I know you think that it's not flat, and that science may claim that it's not flat, but according to the theory, you are all wrong. You have been duped for various reasons, possibly by the aliens themselves, possibly by the reptilians that we spoke about that are promoted by the good David Icke. Which, yes, is a bit of a stretch, I think, in many ways. But hey, the theory is out there, and looking at the conspiracies is what we do. Take it or leave it, as it were. So, according to the theory, the Earth is flat. In the middle of the flat world is the North Pole. And of course, we have explored that. But what we think is the South Pole is not. It's a lot bigger. It's a giant ice wall. And in fact, there are a number of ice walls in concentric rings going to the outside edge of the flat Earth. And it's the outside ice wall that holds everything on to the flat Earth. But there are huge continents in these outer rings that you don't know about. And the only things that live there are these advanced civilizations that may or may not be alien, that are keeping us contained in the middle bit, farming us, as it were. And it was them responsible for many of the archaeological and architectural anomalies. So let's dive into this a little bit further. Now, the instant rebuttal to this is that the Beyond the Ice Wall map, which you may well have seen and may have popped up on social media, is a fictional world-building project that creates a world with hidden continents beyond the Antarctic ice wall. Inspired by conspiracy theories and alternate history, it is not, they say, a real map. But of course, those that are in charge of us would want you to think that. But yeah, it probably isn't serious. Now, the idea was, could you create fictional worlds for books and games? Um, it was a collaborative uh, art development with a shared setting and lore, but quite a lot of community contributions. And of course, these maps turned up on Reddit, YouTube, Pinterest, and DeviantArt. Um, they're not actually real, apparently. So we needn't worry too much about aliens out there. And according to the understanding, um, they are quite serious maps that have been built to show this possible outside place. And they are pretty good, I got to be honest. I mean, in terms of story making and world building, they are pretty cool. But alas, there is no particular proof to it. Good evening. Endless Thoughts, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome. I'm glad you could join us so early. I hope you're in fine and fabulous form. So that's the ice wall that's supposed to be out there. Now, why does Antarctica attract so many conspiracy theories? Well, there are a couple of reasons. The first and most obvious reason, which we can talk about. Most thanks for the likes there. That is truly kind of you. I do appreciate that greatly. Is because nobody lives in Antarctica. It's just too damn cold and there's nothing much there. There's no way for a civilization to live, much less develop in that regard. We know that the Earth is round, and this has been known for many, many centuries, actually. It is one of those situations that it was believed to be something lost and secretive because it makes for a good story. I mean, for many centuries, Australia was known as the terra incognita, the idea that there was a lost and hidden continent. And of course, that was part of the reason why James Cook went to see if Australia really did exist. So they figured it was there for a lot of reasonable reasons. So they thought it was much more populated than it turned out to be. The Earth is round, how can I tell? Asks Endless Thoughts. Well, mostly due to Earth curvature. You can actually mathematically show that it has to be round, first off. Secondly, you can kind of know that because a great many people that are no longer specialists or military have, in fact, flown around the world. So, yeah, there's that, I suppose. I think if something was hidden, we should probably be looking under, not around, if that makes sense. Though, interestingly enough, the truth about Antarctica is probably a lot more spectacular than anything fictionary. Antarctica is a very difficult place to get to. We do know that. And James Clark Ross made an expedition to go there, and they did find the Ross Ice Shelf, which is part of the reason that this sort of idea of an ice wall exists. The Earth is round, but from my perspective, the world goes up, and that's true. Mountains and a whole, that is very true. There are a lot, and that's part of the reason why I say if there was anything secret, hidden, it would be under the world rather than hidden all the way in Antarctica, I think. That's my theory. But I could be completely wrong, of course. And much thanks, by the way, for those gifts. I do appreciate. That's very kind of you. But as conspiracy theories go, this one is pretty crappy, to be honest. However, there are a number of theories about Antarctica that are a lot more interesting and a lot more plausible, based in fact on a certain amount of truth. We know that there were a number of secret journeys made by the Nazis to Antarctica. And of course, there is one theory that there is a secret Nazi base in the Antarctic there. To be fair, there was, quite literally. Part of the whole thing, with, especially with the development of aircraft that were more viable than anything else, it certainly did develop the possibility of you going across the Antarctic to get to other countries as a safer route, because there's nobody there, there's nobody to stop you or shoot at you, which means if you could fly a plane long enough, you could get around to the country in question quickly, attack, and leave without them realizing you're coming. So the Nazi Party did have an attempted base. Whether or not it's a secret base still there where Hitler is living is another entire question. Thank you very much for that very kind heart. I do appreciate. Now, we do know that 2 months after the Nazi defeat in 1945, 2 German U-boats surrendered in Buenos Aires, sparking a rumor that they had been carrying senior Nazis into exile in South America. There were none found on board, but maybe they'd gotten off. The source of this was a Hungarian called Ladislas Szabo, who in 1947 wrote a book that tied the U-boats to the German Antarctic expedition, claiming they'd been part of a mission to carry the Nazi leadership to the New Berchtesgaden, a secret base constructed by the earlier expeditions to Antarctic. As the story grew in the telling, even Hitler was eventually relocated to the base, possibly alive, possibly dead. That varies in the telling, of course. And they are there in this ice cave hidden under the Antarctic as part of the inspiration for the building of a new Reich. Now, ironically, the only base established by any of the wartime powers at Fort Lockroy on the Antarctic Peninsula during the British Operation Tabarin. And this was all about establishing British sovereignty against South American claims for the region rather than fighting the Nazis. So it seems that there really are bases, but it was in fact done by the British, not the Nazis. So maybe there's a British secret base. We don't know. We do know that the only known base there is pretty much abandoned, and it's now known as the Penguin Post Office. However, because we're never going to let go of a good possible story, let's face it, they say that there is a hidden city beneath the Antarctic, home to an ancient civilization or possibly extraterrestrial. So you can see how it kicks in with the idea of the Atlantis theory. And of course, this comes out of the fascination people have had about lost worlds all over the globe, and especially in the polar regions. And we have seen this showing up in the fact that novelists like Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth, um, Edgar Allan Poe published his narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym, in which a whaling ship passes through the Antarctic pack to a verdant land populated by strange peoples. Um, but it was Richard E. Byrd, who was a genuine explorer, that inadvertently became the uh, source, if you will, of a lot more weirdness in this regard. So 1926 to 1929, Byrd made a series of long-range survey flights from his base on the Ross Ice Shelf, eventually being the first person to reach the South Pole since Amundsen and Scott. And as you recall, the whole thing with Amundsen and Scott was a little bit of a disaster as well. They tried very, very hard to get in there, and they only just made it. It was a bit of an awful trip, but very hard. He discovered an extensive series of mountain ranges, which went on to inspire H.P. Lovecraft, who then wrote At the Mountains of Madness of Antarctica, which of course added to the whole thing and included stories of exploration and eldritch terrors. And I mean, we know that H.P. Lovecraft has influenced so much of our horror genre. I mean, the Necronomicon, that is supposed to be the most evil book in the world, never existed. It was invented by H.P. Lovecraft for his stories. And so many people believe it's real. It isn't. It was a fictional development, but it was a very, very good one. H.P. Lovecraft was an absolute master, and as a result, many of his stories have been taken to be practically gospel. Sadly, however, not so. So, Byrd's participation left a very big mark on the imaginations of the world. Do excuse me, my glasses are being very dirty, and it's possibly true that my eyes are being dirty as well. I don't know why. I sees you. Or maybe not. Now I sees you. Okay, that's better. So, um, the extraordinary Bunga Hills were discovered when he went checking things out, an area surrounded by the ice sheet, but remarkably snow-free, with an unfrozen lake at its center. And Byrd called it the most remarkable place on the planet, which is probably true. It really is an amazing thing, and it's because of the thermal water that is warm, that it keeps part of the ice away from around these particular bits, apparently, making them really amazing in this frozen wasteland. And Byrd called it an island suitable for life, found in a universe of death, which really is incredibly fascinating. But whilst these places do exist and have quite a lot of lichens and mosses and such, there is not enough to actually make it livable. It's still pretty harsh out there, so you wouldn't do very well. That said, it makes for a great story. Now, flat Earth beliefs have existed for centuries. There are still quite a lot of people apparently today that do believe in flat Earth. It doesn't make a massive amount of sense for a lot of geographical and geological reasons. In the modern era, they have been around since the 20th century, though there were times when they popped up before that on numerous occasions. It is one of those things that most of the true believers, and I'm going to sound cynical and I admit it, rarely leave home very much. So there is that. We know that the idea behind it is, I suppose, based on the understanding that we haven't fallen off. That is true. We have not fallen off. So people say, well, if it wasn't flat, we would, which is kind of logical. I have a stepbrother who believes the earth is flat, but he's not all. That is very mean of you and possibly true. Yes, scientifically speaking, there are a great many reasons why the earth is not flat. Could it have places underground where people might live? Possibly. We do know that there are a number of civilizations that do live underground. And in fact, some of them are in tonight's topic of Italy, because there's the most amazing cave system with all sorts of houses, not that deep, but people live in them, even today. There's a fascinating cave system that popped up in one of our other lives. You will remember Endless Thoughts, which, if I'm not wrong, was in one of the Arab states, not far from Greece, and it's one of the ones where there was a bit of a war between it and Greece, and there was an agreement made where a fairly large number of Greeks living in that country got kicked out back to Greece, and the Arabs in Greece were kicked across. It was a bit of a badly politically solved problem that basically just made everybody upset. But there is a huge underground cave structure that has been lived in for centuries and is really amazing. But it's not a conspiracy thing, it's a safety thing. These people lived there to avoid all sorts of problems that were experienced on the surface. So that's slightly different, but interesting, to be fair. And he can argue. I've known people who are firm in that belief who can truly argue as well. So I'm not surprised at all. Now, I don't know why my contacts are playing silly buggers tonight. And I do apologize if I keep rubbing my eyes, but that's why. So we know that quite a few of the flat earth theorists, as you say, absolutely can argue very well and are quite outspoken about it. But nevertheless, I remember seeing a post claiming that the Flat Earth Society has got members around the globe. Think about that for a second. And there is a strong push to it. Now, there's an interesting chap by the name of David Weiss who says that the Earth is absolutely flat. And he believes it absolutely full on. So And recently, he was taken off and proved to very, very definitively that the Earth was in fact round, and they interviewed him just after. And according to the interview with him, he was extremely disappointed. Um, and he said it just changed his entire focus on life, which was severely traumatic. Um, so, yeah, apparently it's a bit of a tough one if you suddenly find. Well, I'll add one to that. Have you ever gone outside during the day and seen the moon in the sky? How come? Hasn't it gone to the other side of the Earth? Isn't that the point? Fair question. And as you say, that I too, I'm not an astronomer or anything like that, but how come you always see the same stars throughout the year? Well, one answer you might give is, do you? It's only at night that you see the stars. So maybe it is the world that is rotating. So during the day, if you could see the stars, they'd be different. Maybe. So tell us the answer, oh endless thought. I love this. The refutation of craziness and the argument surrounding is absolutely a wonderful topic that can be explored for hours. Um, so there is that. Now, jump past our flat Earth notes quickly and onto the next particular bit. And we don't need to know about that because that's not part of it. Boing. Okay, so we're supposed to be talking about pyramids, particularly. And today's country of interest is, of course, Italy. So the big question is, are there pyramids in Italy? And the answer might surprise you because it's yes. There are indeed pyramids in Italy. And were they built by aliens or an advanced technology? Well, according to what we have seen, archaeologists who don't believe in aliens say no, they were built by Romans. The Earth does not rotate around the sun. The Earth doesn't rotate around the sun, does it not? And it's falling. Does that mean one day we're going to fall into the sun and go poof? It's possible, you know. It's an interesting thought. So how can I see the moon both? The sun is cunning. I like your argument. So because the sun is moving, we are falling towards it. We would fall into it, but the sun keeps moving. Where is the sun going? That's worrying. I think I like that theory a lot less because it sounds terrifying. I'm afraid. But with with that, we have pyramids in Italy. But what pyramids? Uh, moving around the galaxy. Well, in all fairness, why not? It seems fairly reasonable to say it might be shunting around the galaxy. The galaxy is big, things move around it, we know that. Um, I'm just looking for the cloth to wipe my glasses and I've lost it. I have clearly thrown it away somewhere, so no wiping thereof. Oh dear. That's why we have shirts, don't we? Let's find my shirt. So, there is an ancient Egyptian style pyramid, not an ancient Egyptian pyramid, an ancient Egyptian style pyramid. Okay, you're not making your theory any nicer there, Endless Thoughts. It's falling into a big black hole. Yeah, that's reassuring right there. If we fall in, we'll go poof. We don't want to fall into black holes. Even if the black hole is moving, what if we're faster and catch up? That sounds really worrying. I don't like that theory. That sounds truly terrifying. I like aliens better. We can at least fight them back and get some of their ray guns. I'd like a ray gun. Would you like a ray gun? I think we would like ray guns. So, in Rome is the Pyramid of Cestius. Cestius built this, Gaius Cestius. It's a Roman era tomb built for him, Gaius Cestius, that is nowadays incorporated into the city's defensive walls, which are no longer used. Beyond this well-known structure, there are the natural earth pyramids of Ritten near Bolzano. Erosion formation is made of glacial moraine. And then there are the mysterious Etruscan pyramids of Orvieto, which are unique subterranean structures that offer clues about the ancient Etruscan civilization. So, what are we talking about there? Okay, so End of Thought says that we don't have to worry about falling into the black hole because the sun will explode before we get anywhere near the black hole and wipe everything out anyway. So that's good. But it will be in 4 billion years' time. I'm good with that. I got no problem with that. I won't be around then. I'm okay. I shall accept that as being a suitably sufficient reason not to worry. If anybody is still around in 4 billion years, good luck. Until then, I don't care. I'm good with that. I hope. Unless it's faster than we think. So, having touched on the possibility of not so imminent destruction of the entire universe as we know it, the Pyramid of Cestius was built probably between 18 and 12 BC for the magistrate Caius Cestius, or Gaius Cestius. It's one of the best preserved ancient buildings in Rome, and it's unique because it was literally a copy of the Egyptian style. It's situated, in case you ever want to visit it, near Porta San Paolo, and it's built into the Aurelian walls, and it survived as a bastion for the city's defense. You can observe and photograph the pyramid from the outside, but the inside is not open to the public, alas. Unless, of course, they've got secrets in there. There are plenty of secrets to be thought about. Let's be fair. Now, essentially, this is a very neat and well-built pyramid, but there are the other pyramids, the Botzano pyramids of Ritten. What is the name again? My dear person, you need to tell us what you are referring to. I do apologize. Clarify, and I will answer that as best I can. But as we get going, I remind you all, like, share, subscribe, do all the good things to keep this channel going, because we absolutely do need it. And let's discuss the Bolzano pyramids of Ritten. Now, according to proper archaeologists, as opposed to all of us conspiracy ones that are dead keen on the weird things, these are a natural formation whereby it's a kind of erosion that forms the pyramidal structures um, from basically a specific kind of rock that's deposited by glacial moraines. Um, they are certainly very interesting, and these are consistently evolving with formations that are more or less elongated and all capped with a stone. They are found in the Ritten Plateau near Bolzano in northern Italy. So they look like pyramids, but they weren't made by people. Unless, of course, we look at the conspiracy side of it, which is to say that just as people in Egypt were inspired to build their pyramids, and the people in South America were inspired to build their pyramids, even in Italy, there were those that inspired the building of pyramids. And this is proof that when the Atlanteans, or whoever it was that took their ancient technology and wisdom around the world after Atlantis sunk, did stop over in Italy and managed to inspire the building of these things as well. But of course, most importantly, they assisted the humans in Italy in the building up of their civilization. And of course, the question again comes up then of who these peoples were. Were they ancient Atlanteans? Were they aliens? Were they both? What was the point of the pyramid? Well, according to what we've seen thus far, a proper pyramid, which needs to be magnetic, by the way, is a power plant, a way that you can build that allows you to generate power. So if you need to refuel your flying saucer, this is how you would do it, of course, which is very, very important. So there is that side to things. That appears to be the idea. Is it true? Well, you have to decide for yourself. Huge thanks again for the likes there, Endless Thoughts. That is very, very kind of you. But there are more pyramids in Italy. So even if the first pyramid was built by a Roman magistrate or for a Roman magistrate, the second set of pyramids are moraine glacial leavings. There are the Etruscan pyramids. Now, who the hell are the Etruscans? Well, one of the things that we often forget is that the world is not what it was. You know, that's probably not a bad viewpoint. So Endless Thoughts has basically said that she is not a supporter of the alien theory, but she does believe that certain older civilizations, shall we say, were far more advanced than we realize. They had skills that were lost, which might prove to be true, because there are a number of anomalies that seem to imply that we tend to think that we are the pinnacle of civilization, but are we really? What if it was done before and then after that something happened and we lost it all and we sort of had to start again, kind of thing, but maybe got a boost by some of these survivors? It's a fair point. I mean, even in our world, say I survived a massive flood that wiped out millions. I know about cars and I drive a car, but if you were to ask me how to build a car, I couldn't tell you. I don't have that skill. So, dependent on who survived the great flood or whatever, they might have different specific skills. And while they might have a certain degree of knowledge, they might not know how to build those things entirely. They might be able to give you a reasonable idea of what can be done, or not a bad one at all for a lot of reasons. But, as I was saying, we tend to think of the world in terms of how we know it. So the Greeks come from Greece, right? Well, no, they don't. The original Greeks come from the city of Greece, one city within the area that we now call political Greece. Originally, they were city-states, and they were not all Greeks. And in fact, there's a fascinating story that goes along with this, because in a number of the writings of ancient philosophers, one of the famous stories is that of the Greeks and the Trojans. And like Plato's city of Atlantis that he writes about there, everybody knew that Troy never actually existed. It was a literary construct to make a point, and it never really existed at all. And this was a known fact until one very misguided archaeologist figured a few things out and found it, which was a little bit embarrassing. And they realized that actually the city of Troy really did exist. And they had to change quite a lot of their knowledge of archaeology, and it was all wrong. Bit embarrassing, but they recovered, of course, as scientists always do, and sort of quietly forgot the fact that they hadn't known it had existed. So the ancient literary city of Troy, from where we get the idea of the Trojan horse and all of those fabulous stories, really did exist. And it was in the country that we now called Greece at a time when it wasn't called Greece. When Troy existed, Greece was the next city. It is only in modern times that we call that entire area Greece. And before you had the idea of Greece, you had the cities and then you had the city-states. So Sparta, which is now part of Greece, was its own country in a way. It was city-state. The Spartans lived in or around the city of Sparta. And this was a common thing all over the world. There weren't that many people, and pretty much your city was it. That was your equivalent of a modern country. So, who were the Etruscans? The Etruscans were a group of people that we've called Etruscan that were made up of a number of different specific people from the area we now called Greece that eventually developed into the Greeks. They are the pre-Greeks in a way, and they were pretty advanced. The stories of things like Jason and the Argonauts, the Etruscans were amazing sailors. They were. And they did travel all up and down into the Black Sea, along the Russian coastline. And they've actually found Greek ships right up the Russian coastline, which matches more or less the journey described in the legends of the Argonauts, which implies actually that maybe the story, while it became more fanciful and mythologized, was originally actually true, which is very interesting. There's more truth than we think of. We know that while the story of the Minotaur might not be entirely true, the city of Minos did exist, and there was a king there. The tale of the Minotaur might be based, at least in part, in truth. And this is true for a lot of places. So we have Etruscan pyramids in Italy, and they are in Orvieto. Now, what's weird about them is that they are underground. They are very unique, and we're not really sure what the hell is going on. Their purpose is unclear. They may have been religious structures, possibly tombs, but they certainly are Etruscan and interesting. Now, can we say more about that sort of particular delightful set of strangenesses? Let's have a go and see. So, I'm really struggling with dry eyes tonight. I don't know why. I think I need to get myself some eye drops. There's an entire report that was given on these things. So, the first ever Etruscan pyramids have been located underneath a wine cellar in the city of Orvieto in Italy, according to archaeologists from both the US and Italy. Carved into the rock of the Tufa Plateau, Tufa is a sedimentary rock, and it's the result of volcanic activity that the modern city of Orvieto stands on. The subterranean structures were largely filled, and only the topmost modern layer was visible. Within the upper section, which had been modified in modern times and was used as a wine cellar, we noticed a series of ancient stairs carved into the wall. They were clearly of Etruscan construction, according to David B. George of the Department of Classics of St. Anselm, and as they started digging, they noted that the cave walls were tapered up in a pyramid fashion. Interestingly, a series of tunnels, again of Etruscan construction type, ran underneath the wine cellar, hinting that there was possibly deeper undiscovered structures below. So, as you can imagine, they all got very, very interested and excited about this, as they were archaeologists. They found Etruscan pottery with Etruscan inscriptions on it and various other objects dated to before 1,000 years BC. So this showed who had built it, and that there was more to be found. So below the material there was a brown layer that they are still excavating, and the stone stairs ran down the wall, and we still don't know where these stones will eventually lead, which makes it even more interesting. At this level, we found a tunnel running to another pyramidal structure dating from around the 5th century BC, which just adds more to the mystery. So you've got at least 1,000 years of Etruscans building pyramids BC, which of course makes you wonder what the heck is going on. Now, who were the Etruscans? They were a very eclectic people and quite fun-loving, who allegedly at least taught the French how to make wine, the Romans how to build roads, and introduced the art of writing to Europe. They began to flourish in Etruria, which is an area in central Italy that covered what is now Tuscany, Latium, Emilia-Romagna, and Umbria around 900 BC, and are related apparently to the Greeks in certain ways as well, and dominated Italy for 5 centuries, which is pretty impressive. They were known for their art, agriculture, fine metalworking, commerce, and they started to decline during the 5th century BC as the Romans grew in power, and eventually they disappeared as a people. Fair enough. Their puzzling non-Indo-European language was virtually extinguished, and they left no literature to document their society. Indeed, what we know from them comes from cemeteries, the very richly decorated tombs that they left behind. So the idea of finding pyramids is even more exciting and could possibly offer huge amounts more of information. Now, the caves are indeed a shape unknown elsewhere among the Etruscans. According to the leading expert on the Etruscans, Larissa Bonfante, there are at least 5 pyramids under the city. 3 of these structures haven't even been excavated yet. They're not quarries or cisterns. There is nothing like these on record anywhere else in Italy. According to what was reported, the underground pyramids could represent some sort of religious structure or a tomb. Most likely the answer will eventually turn up, but we don't know how much is still to be dug up. Now, here's the thing. Why were they underground? And part of the answer is either, just like Pompeii, they were buried by volcanic activity, or perhaps they were meant to be underground. We're not sure. So, what gives and why is it important? Well, we're not sure, but we do know that there's something viscerally fascinating about pyramids, which makes it really strange, because modern France, the Louvre, has now got a pyramid on it. Thousands of years of dust, absolutely. Could be that they didn't have a good housekeeper. If they did and they had what are those things? A Roomba? Is it a Roomba? A little vacuum cleaner that drives itself around and sucks up all the dirt. That would have saved them. But unfortunately, no. But I think that's hilarious. But what about the Earth Pyramid? Any conspiracies there? Well, the Earth Pyramids of Ritten um, are a natural monument, they say, located in Ritten, a plateau not far from Bolzano in northern Italy. They're a fairly widespread phenomenon that exists in various locations like South Tyrol and Platten. The original name in this area of the Earth Pyramids is Landstume, landslide towers, and they originate from glacial moraine rocks. The columns of the pyramids may be more or less elongated, and the higher they are, the thinner they get, usually ending with a stone cover. These earth pyramids are continuously evolving and continuously eroding, and will eventually collapse and make way for new formations. Here's the thing. Just because they are evolving doesn't make them natural. And I don't know enough about geology to tell you whether or not it's possible. They are essentially pyramidal towers of solid rock with a boulder of some kind parked on top. There are those who have said that they were made by aliens, but even pretty weird alien loving type people tend to say no, they're natural, which is kind of sad because I like the idea. Now, what other strange architecture can we talk about? Because the pyramids are not the only thing in Italy, and certainly not the only important thing. We do know that Italy is a city of incredible art, incredible inventions. I mean, Da Vinci, wow. And a lot of intrigue, conspiracy, political backstabbing. I mean, I give you the Borgias. Right away, we can see that there is all kinds of conspiracy going on there. We know that if any of you guys have played Assassin's Creed, it's based on real events. There really were that many conspiracies going on and trade wars going on in Italy at the time. It was that bad, and assassinations were absolutely common. There's a brilliant set of interesting things that were found, including a Bible that was rigged with a pistol in the spine so you could sit in church and shoot somebody. I mean, church, of course, why not? Um, why wouldn't you sit in church and shoot somebody? The idea of a concealed dagger that shoots out of your wrist and lets you stab somebody, absolutely true. They really existed. I played Valhalla for a few days. I didn't get to play Valhalla. I remember playing the very first one, and it was pretty damn good. But it's all based on the trade wars that really, really did happen out of Italy, and the big families that they were awful. I mean, it was cutthroat in the most astounding way, quite literally. So, and then of course you had the church and the very awful popes. We know for a fact that one of the Borgias wore a ring that had a hidden compartment in it where he kept poison, in case he wanted to knock off somebody. We know that they kept it in the family, and a number of the children of the popes took over as pope, which it sort of shows how major the corruption was within the Catholic Church. It stopped being a religious center at a certain time for quite a while and became very much a political power thing. There's no doubt. I mean, it's historically documented, and one hopes it did go back. But amongst other things, of course, you had the Vatican, which is riddled with lost rooms and secret tunnels. And of course, to add to the conspiracy is you're not allowed into the Vatican library unless you at least have one degree. If you don't have a degree, they won't even let you get in the front doors, much less access to serious books. To access the serious books, you have to at least have a master's and all kinds of permissions and skill and experience and all sorts of other stuff, simply because of the age of some of the books. But of course, this has promoted massive and massive of conspiracy theories as to what are they hiding down there. And I've heard stories that range from proof that the earth is flat, proof that aliens exist, uh, a demon that has been caught and is chained below in a special chamber. One fascinating story which said an angel was caught and is chained below. Um, all kinds of relics and things that might prove that uh, they have awesome powers that we don't know about, or prove that Jesus never existed and, in fact, was a complete made up story to give them power. I mean, the conspiracies, believe me, they go on and on and on and on. Um, so merely having secret compartments is practically mundane. And of course, we know that the Vatican City is connected to all kinds of other things. We know that the different great houses, the trade houses, absolutely had all kinds of secrets and hidden tunnels and more. That's absolute record. And when you throw into the mix the kind of minds like Leonardo da Vinci, who could conceive of um, technology that really and truly was utterly impossible in his time, but he drew it, he built it, and most of his drawings, where people have actually taken them and tried to build them, they actually work, which is even more incredible. I mean, if you want conspiracy, there's real life weird that is way more fascinating than mere aliens. So, Italy is full of strangenesses in massive ways. And let's have a look at one or two of the places that are just quite so incredible. And we can start by saying that the Vatican Apostolic Archives have hidden secrets, including documents about the Priory of Zion, proof of Jesus's non-existence, proof of Jesus's lineage, or also, and this gets a bit technical, the third secret of Fatima. Now, I don't know, how many of you have heard of Lourdes? If you don't know, Lourdes is a place where apparently the Virgin Mary appeared to a number of shepherd girls and revealed a number of secrets and did a number of miracles and healings. It's a huge pilgrimage site for the Catholic Church. Now, 3 secrets were revealed to the oldest child. Okay, and this is very, very important because only 2 of those secrets have been made public. And according to what they say, um, the oldest child that had the visions of the Blessed Virgin, she was told you may only tell 2 of the secrets, which she did. I forget what they are off the top of my head, but they were fairly significant. The 3rd secret isn't allowed to be told. We don't know why. Now, she was allowed to tell certain people in the Vatican who recorded it because she obviously eventually got old, and I think she may well have died by now. So it's recorded and hidden in the Vatican. But nobody knows what the secret is or what it's about. So, of course, there's huge speculation. We also believe that, or at least a certain theory says, Father Pellegrino Maria Ernetti, a scientist and a priest, invented a device called a chronovisor, which could view both the past and the future. And that's another thing hidden inside the Vatican. Of course, we all know that the Vatican is actually the main base for the Illuminati, and this secret society has members placed in powerful global positions all over the world, and of course controls the archives, where you've got the hidden demon and the hidden angel and all of the secrets of true magic and all the rest of it, which they don't allow anybody else to see. They also say that there's a lot more. Now, historically, as I say, there's a lot of secret societies all around Italy that have nothing to do with the Vatican or the Church, but nevertheless are fascinating in that regard. But let's start. Vatican first. The chief exorcist of the Vatican performed over 100,000 exorcisms. Fact. Most people believe that exorcism is only seen in horror movies and is something that died out in the Middle Ages. But the practice is alive and well in the Catholic Church. And this is genuine fact. I have, in fact, read the books written by this particular person, Father Gabriel Amorth. I'm going to type it into the comments. Okay. Now, if you are interested in any manner or form into exorcisms and all of that, this is the man to read. And he was the chief exorcist for all exorcists in the world because he was the main chap for the Vatican. He served for 60 years and he's believed to have maybe even performed as many as 160,000 exorcisms. The rite is not just limited to the late chief exorcist, though. It's been performed by various priests and popes and more over the years. In 2018, the BBC reported that the Vatican welcomed 250 priests from across the world to its annual workshop on exorcisms. And yes, they are performed to this day and they are taken very, very, very seriously. And it is said, if you read Gabriel Amorth's books, they are terrifying. You think you see in horror movies. If they made a movie of the real things he claims to have seen, I promise you, you will not sleep tonight. They are fascinating and they are terrifying. If you believe in that stuff, man, they are scary. So right there. Now, the second one, the Vatican helped Nazi war criminals escape the Allied forces. Now, after the victory of the Allied forces in Germany and in World War II, the Nazis were forced to seek refuge outside Europe. Thousands managed to escape to South American countries like Argentina, Chile, and Brazil. Now, according to the stories, um, there's a chap by the name of Gerald Steinarker, who is a Harvard researcher, who wrote a book that shows travel documents pointing to the Vatican having helped the Nazis escape to these countries. Weirdly enough, there are certain places within these countries where a lot of German is spoken. I'm just saying. Uh, Steinarker argues that it was done with the hope of reviving European Christianity and fear of a growing influence of the Soviet Union, but the Vatican has refused to comment on these things. We do know there's one place in one of these, I think it's in Chile, which is a closed community where everybody in the community speaks German. It's like a kind of large retirement home type place, and there is absolutely no Nazis living there at all. We are absolutely certain they're just German old people. Just saying. It's a real place, and you can't go in there if you're not one of the residents. Makes you wonder. The other thing is the Vatican made money from the Holocaust. Don't know. They certainly, over the course of history, made money from a hell of a lot of things. That is very true. Um, And if they did help the Nazis escape, they would have been paid with Nazi gold. And we know that where did they get the gold? Well, they got the gold from the Jews that were executed. So, yeah, there's a reasonable argument that they made money off the Holocaust. I think it's not unreasonable. And this is somebody who was trained as a priest saying it, who was a monk for 9 years. And yes, I've had a lot to do with the history of that kind of thing. Jacqueline, welcome, welcome, welcome. Huge thanks for uh, the roses from Jacquelina and the wonderful hearts from Endless Thoughts. We've achieved our life goal tonight. My word. What an amazing evening. I thank you massively. And for all the hearts as well, you guys are doing such kindnesses. I love it. But yes, I am almost certain that uh, money has been made from things throughout history by the Vatican from a lot of bad stuff. They certainly made money from the Crusades. Scandals at the Vatican Bank. Now, the Institute for the Works of Religion is what it's actually called, but they do say that, and this is kind of true, they did do deals with the Nazi party, and they taxed Hitler and received taxes from Hitler every year for some time. We know there were connections there. A substantial amount of money that was paid to this bank cannot be tracked by Western banks. It was used to store billions of dollars, the details of which have never been publicly revealed. And of course, this just leads you to say, what the hell, really? I think there's a lot of corruption in a lot of places all over the world. So, you know, what do they say? If you point a finger, there are three pointing back at you. Yeah, great truth in that. We know that there was a book called His Holiness that was released in 2012 based on leaked secret papers of Pope Benedict. The private documents that were leaked by his own butler to the author apparently, and reviewing these things, an internal investigation got held, which revealed that individuals not from the Vatican were blackmailing gay bishops since they had broken their celibacy vows. And Pope Benedict went on to resign from the papacy due to this scandal. And by and large, if I remember my history, um, there has never been a pope in the entire history of the church who has resigned, which is kind of concerning in that regard if you're Catholic. There is an apostolic penitentiary, a secret tribunal that investigates the so-called heinous crimes of individual. It was supposedly founded in 1179 and kept secret until 2009. Only the Pope can grant absolution to people that are brought to this tribunal. Example of sins include attempts to assassinate the Pope, a priest exposing the sin or identity of a person who has confessed to them, and so on. The Pope acts as the head of the tribunal and is called the major penitentiary and can either offer absolution or let the automatic execution stand. Now, of course, these days a lot of people don't think too much about excommunication, but back in the day, excommunication was worse than execution. Basically, because it meant not only were you banned from pretty much everything in this world, and people wouldn't dare even deal with you, so you'd be ruined. But it banned your soul from heaven. So it was a very serious thing. Now, another mysterious thing, which may or may not be true, was the Cadaver Synod. In 1897, the Catholic Church put a dead man on trial. The posthumous trial of Pope Formosus was held by Pope Stephen VI, his successor. Formosus was accused of usurping the papacy, despite being dead for 7 months at this point. The body of the Pope was exhumed, dressed in his ecclesiastical attire, and brought to the papal court for judgment. A deacon was even appointed to speak on behalf of the dead Pope. He was found guilty. All the acts as Pope were declared null and void. His body was stripped of his garments, and he was dressed in rags. 3 fingers of his one hand, which is the fingers of benediction that a pope uses, were cut off, and his body was cast into the river Tiber, where ancient Romans disposed of the most infamous criminals for centuries. That's a pretty harsh thing to do, right there, even if you're dead. So yeah, there's a lot of weird things that have happened. So what about the things in the secret archive? Well, number one, Jesus never existed. According to reports within the secret archive, communication between the Emperor Nero and St. Paul regarding the existence of Jesus, which proves that Jesus never actually existed and it was a political move. Make of that as you will. Evidence of extraterrestrial life. So the Vatican is supposed to hold proof of the existence of extraterrestrial life in the form of some skulls. Some sources say that the archives contain proof that the Pope is in fact even conspiring with extraterrestrial beings to implant everyone on Earth with computer chips. We do know the governments are, so hey, why not the aliens too? Unless, of course, the aliens are the governments. could be worse than we thought. Then, of course, there are the three secrets of Fatima, which we mentioned. So, the controversial third secret is believed to be a secret document hidden in the archives. In 1917, three children from Portugal received prophecies, one of which was witnessed by thousands of people. The supposed suppression of the third secret fueled rumors that its contents were regarding a nuclear holocaust or possibly a massive worldwide natural disaster, and so on. The release of the contents of the secret was apparently done in the year 2000, and so it's supposedly not secret, but people are saying that wasn't the real one and it's still hidden. We don't know. It is said to be, here's a good one for you, the home of the largest collection in the world of pornography. They're priests. Of course it is. Some conspiracy theorists believe that they have got the biggest collection in the world. Copenhagen's Museum of Erotica confirms these speculations. In addition to writings by the National Review founder William Buckley Jr. and the scholar Carmilla Paglia. Unsurprisingly, the Vatican archives claim that no, they don't have that. But then they would, wouldn't they? Next, we have they are controlled by the Illuminati. So, certain people believe that despite the dissolution in the medieval times of the Illuminati, that is actually still around and it's built itself up all over the world. And the most powerful office of all is the Vatican, where many of its prominent members are part of this group. The aim of the group is to control all people and all governments and take over the world. It's possible that Pinky and the Brain are there. Now, the time machine one is a very interesting one. And of course, we know exactly that this was the entire plot of Assassin's Creed. That was the point of Assassin's Creed, and it is this conspiracy theory that inspired it. Is it true? We don't know. Could it be true? Sure, why not? I'm all up for a lot of conspiracy. Sure. Along with this, of course, you have a number of other interesting conspiracies that have turned up around this, including the death of Pope John Paul I. Now, he died in 1978, only a month after his election to the papacy, and the timing of his death and the Vatican's alleged difficulties with ceremonial and legal death procedures have fostered several conspiracy theories. David Yallop, the British author, wrote extensively about unsolved crimes and conspiracy theories, and in his 1984 book, In God's Name, suggests that John Paul I died because he was about to uncover a financial scandal involving the Vatican. John Cromwell responded to Yallop's charges in 1987 with his book, A Thief in the Night, where he analyzed the allegations and denied the conspiracy. According to Eugene Kennedy, it helps to purge the air of paranoia and conspiracy theories showing the truth. But, well, the Vatican has remained silent. John Paul II's 1981 attempted assassination is another one. And they say that this may have been done either by secret services of other countries or more. We know that it was Mehmet Ali Agha that tried to kill him. He was caught and executed, I believe. But these theories basically say that it was the Bulgarian Secret Service, the Grey Wolves, that tried to do it. So who are the Grey Wolves? And before you say anything, yes, wolves, as in werewolves? I'm just saying. We shall see. The Know Nothings are an anti Catholic political group in the United States in the 1840s and 50s who claimed that the Irish and other Roman Catholic immigrants to the United States were controlled by the Pope for anti American purposes. Maybe. Who's to say? We know all about the secret archives. Other things that are in there are information about the Priory of Zion, proof that Jesus had a wife and descendants. Secret, secretly, they are keeping in there the Spear of Destiny. Who watched Constantine, the original series? Come on, guys. If you're into the weird, John Constantine, originally from Hellblazer, one of the greatest comic heroes ever. But yes, so the Spear of Destiny, also known as the Spear of Longinus, is the spear that the Roman soldier Longinus used to stab Jesus in the side when he hung on the cross. And it's supposed to, having been soaked in the blood of God, to be incredibly powerful. There is information and possibly the presence of the Holy Grail and or the Ark of the Covenant. We know about the chronovisor and the things all about the Illuminati. There are also a great many Jesuit conspiracy theories, which we will get into in a moment. There is a 2022 film called Watch the Water, alleging that the COVID-19 virus was a modified form of snake venom designed to turn people into demonic hybrids by altering their DNA, and it was created by the Catholic Church. It received over 64,000 views within 2 days of its release, and the claims became a trending topic on Twitter, and I am now inspired to see if I can find it. We're going to take a quick snapshot of that just to remind us, because that looks amazing as a conspiracy theory. We shall see if we can find it. Because, I mean, come on, why wouldn't you? Dunk. There are also varied theories around the murder of Pope Francis, who met with J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, on 20th of April 2025, a day before his death, leading to a semi-satirical conspiracy theory that the meeting had somehow resulted in his death, and maybe that Vance himself had killed the Pope. The memes then popped up all over varying other things, and I believe there was even a South Park reference. So, and come on, if a theory is on South Park, it has to be true. Let's be fair. Right there. I claim that. Now, who are the Grey Wolves? So, they are a Turkish political organization. The Bozkurtlar, officially known by the short name of the Idealist Haz, the Ulku Oklari. Doesn't seem much shorter to me. It's a political movement and the youth wing of the National Movement Party, commonly described as ultra-nationalist, neo-fascist, Islamo-nationalist, and racist. They have been described by some scholars and journalists as the death squads and terrorist of a terrorist organization. The members deny its political nature and claim it's a cultural and educational foundation, so that, look, you've got two sides of an argument here, obviously, and it was established by Colonel uh, Alparslan Turkish in the 1960s. They rose to prominence in the 1970s political violence in Turkey when members engaged in urban guerrilla warfare and left-wing militants and activists were their targets. Scholars hold it responsible for most of the violence and killings in the period, including the Marash massacre in December of 1978, which killed over 100 Alevis. They are said to be behind the Taksim Square massacre in 77 and played a role in the Kurdish-Turkish conflict from 78 onwards. The attempted assassination of John Paul II in 81 was another one because Mehmet Ali Agha was a Grey Wolf member, but it was never formally linked to the Grey Wolves. So maybe, maybe not. Who's to say? Are they still around? Possibly. They've been banned in Azerbaijan, where they attempted to seize power in 1995. They extended their area of operation into the post-Soviet states with Turkic and Muslim populations. Up to 1,000 of its members fought in the Nagorno-Karabakh war on the Azerbaijani side, the First and Second Chechen-Russian wars on the Chechen side, kicked out of Azerbaijan. Kazakhstan also banned the organization, calling it a terrorist group. It's still active in northern Cyprus and has branches in Western European nations with significant Turkish diaspora, such as Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. They are the largest right-wing extremist organization in Germany. They were banned in France in 2020 for hate speech and political violence. And there's been calls for this to be done in a lot of other European countries, and calls by the European Parliament on its member states of the EU to designate it as a serious terrorist group. So they're pretty rough right there. Make of that what you want. Now, the Jesuit conspiracy theories, because now you need to know that one of the most powerful organizations in the Catholic Church are the Jesuits, outside of the papacy itself, known as properly the Society of Jesus. They are not monks. They are not friars. They are a society. It's a different religious order in that regard. They've been around for centuries, and theories that they were up to shit started in the 1550s, just 10 years after the founding of the Jesuits. And look, to be fair, they have been involved in a lot of things. At a point, because of the too many religious orders being developed in the Catholic Church, the Pope banned any new ones and said that any that were formed after a certain time in the 12th century, I think, had to be incorporated into existing orders or totally disbanded. Yet the Jesuits, which were only established in about 1540, were not just throwing it out there. Who had power? There's a whole lot. And according to one conspiracy, which was put forward by an Augustinian friar, there is a new fraternity of late sprung up who call themselves the Jesuits, who will deceive many, who are as much like the scribes and Pharisees in their manner, Among the Jews they shall strive to abolish the truth, and shall come very near to do so. For these sorts will turn themselves into several forms. With the heathen, a heathenist; with the atheists, an atheist; and with the Jews, a Jew; with the reformers, a reformard, purposely to know your intentions, your minds, your hearts, and your inclinations, and thereby bring you at last to be like the fool that said in his heart, there is no God. These shall spread over the whole world, shall be admitted to the councils of princes, and they never the wiser. Charming of them, yea, making your princes reveal their hearts and secrets, and they will not perceive it, that which will happen from falling from the law of God, by neglect of fulfilling the law of God, and winking at their sins, yet in their end shall become odious to all nations, and at that end they shall be worse than the Jews, having no resting place on earth. And then shall a Jew have more favor than a Jesuit. That's pretty harsh shit to say right there. So they were not loved, and they did get very powerful, and they were involved in a hell of a lot of politics within the church. That is absolutely true. Um, so they were involved in a lot of weird secrets. Um, the Monitor Secreta, a document showing details of how the Jesuits used their powers to uh, gain favor, both spiritually and monetarily and physically in that regard. Um, so they've been a group of extremely intelligent and well-educated people. That's one of the things that do characterize them, and they are incredible scholars. Um, but yeah, are they all that bad? Who's to really say? I've known a number of Jesuits. Some of them are nice. They were all intelligent. They pick their members very carefully. They're supposed to have been involved in the French Revolution and the overthrow of the monarchy. Um, the Germans did not love them. Uh, and in fact, the Kulturkampf laws uh, even um, had laws against them, the ones that were put out by Otto von Bismarck, who, as we know, was the main boykie of World War One. So there was that. They are supposed to have been accused of having a role in the sinking of the Titanic as well, because there were people on board they wanted done. So because of this, they decided, they've got to get rid of the necessary people. Is it true? We don't know. In the United States, they carefully work according to what is said to create anti Catholicism. So Jesuits are actually against the Catholics, even though they're within the Catholic Church, it's said. And they may have been behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln and the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Is any of this true? Well, none of it is proved. But who's to say? Now, secret architecture in Italy. Secret but not necessarily connected to conspiracies, we do know that the Sassi cave dwellings are what not well known at all, with strange houses carved into the rock. Um, it's very interesting. Is it important? Well, no, but they're thousands of years old, so they're kind of cool. We know that there are labyrinthine cityscapes within the rock homes. Um, We know that there are a number of interesting palaces with secret doors and buildings and um, all kinds of things linked to the use of poisons and connections to the prisons, and that's genuine. It really is there. We know that there are lots of weird architectures and very beautiful ones, which is nice. But can we say uh, more than that? No, not really. There's just too much. Um, the Italians love conspiracy theories, though. That is absolute certain. We know that there's a huge amount of stuff that can be said about it. Um, and like I say, go and play Assassin's Creed. 99% of that is based on genuine history. There's real stuff in there. It's amazing and fascinating. So yeah. Now, is there more that can be said? Well, no. We know that there's all kinds of interesting things in the politics of what is out there, why is it out there, do we care, all the rest of it. But really and truly, the most disappointing thing that I'm going to throw out tonight, which matters to me, at least in that regard, is sadly, there is essentially no werewolves involved in anything in Italy. And that annoys me. Because of all the things that I would really like to have been there, the boring Italians have not got therianthropes. And that just upsets me. I wanted werewolves to be part of the conspiracies. But they do have angels, they say, possibly fallen ones. And who's to say that werewolves are not connected to that? I don't know. But it's not enough for us to be able to claim that werewolves are involved, at least. And I am sad for it. I really wanted there to be a lot of werewolves. Because werewolves are cool, and shapeshifters are all over the world. And in many, many places, a varying number of church groups have been terribly afraid of them, that they are absolutely out there. We know of the Hulijing in China, the skinwalkers of the Navajo, the Obake of Japan, the Ichihadahari Nag from India, the Kitsune from Japan. We've got werewolves. We've got all kinds of interesting things. I will tell you that, did you know that the weir in werewolf is the old English word for a man? I bet you didn't, but it is. But alas, while there are pyramids, there are no werewolves. I'm saddened. Well, I suppose you can't have it all, can you? But yes, we absolutely have enough conspiracies going on in the architecture of Italy to last you a lifetime. We have all kinds of interesting things. Most of them are real. We do know that if you were a serious merchant at a certain point in history in Italy, if you didn't look after yourself, your life expectancy was pretty damn short. And that was a fine way to take over your business. They just knocked you off and took over everything. We know that at that time, the church was very much involved and made tons of money out of it. That is absolute truth. We know, interestingly enough, that the other big merchant houses that were just as um, seriously into their politics and assassinations and everything were in Germany. So there you are. Didn't know that, I bet, as well. So your Europe initially, the big money um, was not in the places that it came to be afterwards. Germany and Italy were absolutely up at the top. They were the main ones. It was only really when it became a huge thing to do with sailing that it shifted. Then Spain and Portugal were the big places because they had the boats. And it was only when they lost that position, so to speak, to first Britain and then the Dutch, that powers shifted again in terms of that. So history has many, many, many changes as to who's the big deal and why. And people rise and fall like leaves in the wind, but werewolves remain. And with that, we have finished the pyramids of Italy. We are going to need to find more elsewhere, and we will. And we will talk about them and the why and the how and the what the story is, because there are more pyramids to talk about. And then once we've done pyramids, we need to talk about other structures that are ancient and other finds, like proof of dinosaur footprints fossilized over human footprints, which proves that humans and dinosaurs lived at the same time. Didn't know that, did you? Along with that, there are things like the cell phones found in ancient carvings, laptops found in ancient carvings, and the damned handbag. We haven't got to the handbag yet. Why do the gods carry a handbag? Endless Thoughts claims that it is their handbag for carrying their stash, which is a pretty good reason if you ask me. We shall see. She might be right. But we don't know for certain. And with all of that, we have reached the end of our nightly discussion. And it was a good one, I think. We did a lot more. Do not forget, guys, we need your comments as well, and your questions, and all sorts of things else, so we can dig up more things very weird, very wonderful, and hopefully quite exciting as we troll along and discover what maybe is out there. So join me again in the next one. Have a wonderful night, dear Crystal. I hope you are going to have an incredible evening further. Thank you so much for joining. I look forward to tomorrow night. I do hope you will be able to join us then as well. But if not, you may be sure I will think of you. And until then, I will say, as I always say, and don't you preempt me, I'm watching you in your comments, I'm watching you. Sleep deep and sleep sweet, but sleep with one eye open, and perhaps keep that holy object near at hand, because you never know. There are many things out there that go bump in the night, and if you're not careful, they might possibly go bump for you. Good night.